Hi everybody, this is Father Moki coming to you from Good Shepherd Episcopal Church here in beautiful Wailuku, Maui. Today is Thursday, September 8th, 2022, and this is Chicken Chat. Well everybody, yes, we are in downtown Wailuku. This is a very urban area, a very concentrated area. Our church is right in the middle of it, and as a result of that we do have issues from time to time, and one of the issues this weekend was the parish hall got broken into. They went in through the purple room, the youth room, broke down the screen, and then went in and ransacked the kitchen. So somebody was very hungry and desperate for food. The police were called, a report was filed, and so there we go. Unfortunately, Cora came to work this morning and found somebody defecating in front of the church and then smearing feces on the wall of the church. So I've asked her to get a 100-foot hose so that it's going to be easier to clean up and things like that. This is ministry in an urban setting, and so it's something we've got to contend with. Not fun, but we'll manage and plod along. The saints this week. We have a number of interesting saints, beginning with Katharina Zell, a Protestant reformer and writer during the Protestant Reformation. So we're talking like the 1500s. She was one of the first Protestant women to marry a clergyman, because back when they were Roman Catholic, the Roman Catholic priest didn't marry. She lived all of her life in Strasbourg. All right, so that's Katharina Zell. Then of course we have Gregorio Aglipay. Gregorio Aglipay Cruz y Labayan. He was a former Filipino Catholic priest who became the first head of the Iglesia Filipina Independiente, an independent church in the form of a national church in the Philippines. And we'll have a lot to say about him on Sunday when we honor his feast day. Hannah More, an English religious writer, a philanthropist, poet, and playwright in the circle of Johnson, Reynolds, and Garrick, who wrote on moral and religious subjects. She was born in Bristol, and she taught at a school her father founded there and began writing plays. That's Hannah More. Cassiani. Cassio or Cassiani, she was a Byzantine Greek composer, hymnographer, and poet. She holds a unique place in Byzantine music as the only woman whose music appears in Byzantine liturgy. Everything else was written by men. She's got about 50 hymns, and most of which are stichera. Stichera. Now I asked myself, what is stichera? Stichera is a hymn sung during the daily, evening, or morning offices, and it's usually sung in alternation after a psalm or other scriptural verses, so it's like a call and response sort of thing. So that's Cassiani. Then we have Eli Naud, a French Huguenot. He first fled to the French colony of Saint Dominique and then to Boston, where he became a merchant. Now, why did he flee? He was a fugitive Protestant, so I guess it was illegal to be a Protestant during his time. And then they caught him near Jamaica, and they sentenced him to life as a galley slave, and they put him in a castle dungeon in Marseille for 2 years and transferred him somewhere off the coast of Marseille. And then King William III interceded and got him released, arguing that he was an English subject, not a French subject. So then he went back to North America, and what became probably the most famous British refugee figure of the time. And he could have gained his freedom by turning to Catholicism, but he said, I'm not going to do that. And then he cut his ties with the French Protestants in New York and became an Anglican, which is probably why he's in our Lesser Feasts and Fasts. So then in 1706, which is probably the reason he's in Lesser Feasts and Fasts, he secured passage of a bill in New York that allowed slaves to be catechized. So in other words, taught religion and these things. So that's heavy duty story. Søren Kierkegaard. He was a Danish theologian, philosopher, poet, social critic, and a religious author who's widely considered to be the first existentialist philosopher. You know, why are we here? Gathering information about that. Then we have Nikolai Grundtvig, Danish pastor, author, poet, philosopher, historian, teacher, and politician. So he covers all the realms. They say he's one of the most influential people in Danish history because his philosophy gave rise to a new form of nationalism in the later 1800s, and it was steeped, his philosophy of nationalism was steeped in national literature and supported by deep spirituality. Constance and her companions, they're called the Martyrs of Memphis, and they began to reach out to people who had yellow fever and to care for them, and she and her companions, as a result of those ministrations, caught yellow fever and died. So that's why they are considered martyrs. They died for the faith. Sounds to me a lot like Father Damien and also Marianne Cope, although Marianne Cope didn't die from her ministrations to sick people. Then we have Alexander Crummell, a pioneering African-American minister, academic, and African nationalist. He was an Episcopal priest, and he went to England in the 1840s to raise money for his church by doing lectures about American slavery. So interesting. Then we have Harry Thacker Burleigh, an American classical composer, arranger, and professional singer who had this baritone voice. And with that baritone voice, he did a lot to contribute to American music and made black music available to classically trained artists, both by introducing them to spirituals and by arranging spirituals in a more classical form. So there we go. Those are the saints for whom we will be praying this week. This week we'll also be praying for the Church of Bangladesh. Bangladesh used to be part of Pakistan, or all of that was part of India during the Raj, and then Pakistan broke away, and Burma, which is Myanmar, also broke away. But then Pakistan also had a breakaway, which became Bangladesh. And there was a lot of civil war between East and West Pakistan that ended in the 1970s, and the east side became Bangladesh, and it's one of the united churches. It's formed by a union of Anglicans with Christians of other traditions, so it's ecumenical. They do have a primate, a head of a church. We have Michael Curry. They have the Bishop of Kushtia, the Most Reverend Samuel Sunhil Mankhim. So that is the Church of Bangladesh. And then in our diocesan cycle of prayer, we're going to continue to pray for our diocesan clergy. I think we do that for 3 or 4 weeks, this being the second week that we do that. And now, while we're talking about prayers, let's please take a moment and pray for everyone on our pastoral care prayer list. Let us pray.
Eric, Purificacion, Paula, Jim, Sue Cheng, Amy, Velma, Bill, Judy, Lucille, Catalina, Maggie, Shirley, Dolores, Charles, Sue, Jacinta, Harry, Serene, Chat, Vic, Suzanne, Monica, Joel, Ryder, Ronnie, Nelson, Dominga, Pilar, Arnell, Marilyn, Ernesto, Alfredo R., Brian, Cora S., Barbara, Charlesta, Brianna, Dan, Gabby, Lynn, Tomo.
God of new beginnings and never endings, may the blue canopy above us enfold us in its mantle of hope. Haunting reality of wind and rain in dark places encircle our lives with love. Merciful giver of newness within the cracks of life, bless us all with silent peace and wonder. God, give us lasting memory of this wondrous pilgrim journey. Amen. That's a Celtic prayer that I got off the internet, and I thought it was so beautiful. I wanted to share it with all of you. As I mentioned earlier, we are honoring Gregorio Aglipay in church this week, both at the virtual services and in-person services. We will have a Filipino bento lunch to offer all of you after the service with rice, pinakbet, chicken adobo, and pancit. So be sure to come. As always, our current offerings here at the church, we have Tuesday Centering Prayer via Zoom at 4 p.m. Wednesday Men's Bible Study via Zoom at 7 a.m. Wednesday Anglican Rosary via Facebook Live at 12 noon. And Thursday Women's Bible Study is off in the month of September, so they will not be meeting. And then for our worship, of course, we have 5 p.m. Saturday outdoor Eucharist here in the courtyard. Sunday a.m. virtual liturgy of the word via YouTube, because we can't do Facebook premiere anymore. Sad, bummer. And then 9 a.m. Sunday Eucharist in the sanctuary with coffee hour and Sunday school and music. This past weekend, we, of course, weren't here because we were off at Camp Mokuleia, where I was the MC for their gala, and we couldn't get back on Sunday morning to do church. So Chris Golding was here on Saturday, and Greg Johnson was here on Sunday with his green rubber slippers to match the liturgical season of the year. The camp gala was great fun, and we pray that it was successful and fruitful for them. Because we were in Honolulu on a Sunday, we were debating where we were going to go to church, and we thought, Kelly Avehi worked for me doing pastoral care during the time I was at the cathedral, and now he's at Good Sam, so let's go check out Good Sam. And we happened to be there on the first anniversary of his vicarship or vicarhood or whatever you call it at Good Sam, and so they had a barbecue, and it was really nice. We got to see Leo Mahone Magno and her husband. Leo Hone was the musician at the cathedral while I was there, and she's done a couple of beautiful paintings that she's given to Dixie and me. And anyway, it was good to see all these folks. Then I also wanted to let you know that while we were in Honolulu, we did go to Straub to call on Alfredo Romero and say some prayers for him. He is the fiance, of course, of Marilyn Ora, who was also there. So it was good to be able to go to the hospital and visit with him and spend some time. We were very, very grateful. The Ka'ohana kitchen this week will be handled by the Rotary Club. This past week, do you remember who it was this past week? Oh, this past week it was Louise and her family, but of course I don't remember because I wasn't here. So anyway, thank you for keeping that ministry going, and we hope that the ransacking of the kitchen doesn't have too detrimental an effect on our ministry. Flowers this week will be given by Daryl Atai for Rulang Kaluakini. Coffee hour will be hosted by the congregation in the form of bento lunches, as I mentioned. They're coming from Four Sisters, so guaranteed it's going to be good. We have milestones this week, birthdays. We say happy birthday to Lei Agpoon, Ryan Kahigal Evans, Devin Daguro, Ethan Evangelista, Zeni Dagulo, Lani Scott Catalino Mailem. Also, please remember in your prayers the death anniversaries of Laura Alstad, Herman Betts, and George Tanaka. And finally, everybody, the moment you've been waiting for, the chicken of the week. So Dixie and I came back from Honolulu and immediately dashed up here to find out, to see what had happened in the parish hall. Really then, other than a kind of cracked window and some broken screens, the extent of the damage was pretty minimal, except that the woman who broke in, and we know it was a woman because we've got her on camera, other than, you know, the ransacking of the kitchen, it wasn't too bad. I guess it could have been a lot worse. But anyway, we came up here, and when we got in the car, there was a hen, we think. We think it was a hen. Just sort of hanging around with all her hen buddies, but she was sort of off over here in the ground, you know, using her beak to dig in the ground for grubs or whatever she was looking for. And I thought, wow, she's pecking a lot. And so I would like to name the chicken of the week for this week, because of all the pecking she was doing, Gregorio Peck. So thank you, Gregorio Peck, for coming and making sure that our yard is clean, and for being so faithful to the church and cleaning up after yourself. And we say thank you to you. So you are the chicken of the week, Gregorio Peck. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye now.